Need food reserves? Well, come on over to eFoods Global at booksmart.myfoods.com. Again, that's booksmart.myfoods.com. eFoods Global is the gold standard of food reserves. Tell them Wise Wolf sent you. The Wise Wolf Project. I'm your host, Wise Wolf. It is March 10, 2011, Thursday, 30 minutes after the hour. Now, there's a saying that generally goes as such: the road to hell is paved with good intentions. People generally have a good mind behind certain things, but it just doesn't work out the way it is planned. And our government, for the life of me, cannot get together what they want to do and have it implemented in an efficient and the way they actually planned it to be. And thus is the case with the Card Act, which was passed in 2009. Now, the Card Act is supposed to help people with credit cards. Everybody who's had a credit card knows that, there can be some things that, they jack up your rate, all of this kind of nonsense, if you're a day late, what have you. Well, the Card Act, after this downturn in the economy, became an emphasis of our government to attack. They had to attack that problem, and they passed it. And if you were to listen to Elizabeth Warren, who is now the head of the new Financial Consumer Protection Agency, she said that even before the act was passed, there were 10 things that the government was trying to do. And out of those 10 things, before the act was even passed, the banks had already figured out how to get around 8 of them, or 80% of it. So they are not living up to the spirit of the law. So now what we have now is a situation where so-called free checking is going to go away. And I told you in my last video that I have nothing good to say about the banks at all. Their whole agenda is they're like vampires. I mean, they want to take your money. And there's another saying that he who has the goal makes the rules. Well, the metaphoric goal in this case is money or credit, and they control it, and they control the account. So if your money is in their account, if you go back to Nacho Money, my video Nacho Money, it also talked about how when you put your money in the bank, the law states that it is a loan to the bank. So they control it. Now, in this article, first of all, I'd like to give props to Blake Ellis. He seems to be the person to go to in reference to banks and credit cards, because the 3 articles that I have to present in this video are all written by him. I think that's a him. Forgive me if it's not. Anyway, this article, Slay New Checking Account Fees, was posted by Blake January 7th of this year, 2011. And it says that Chase will be enrolling all new customers in their total checking account and charging them a $12 monthly maintenance fee. You see, what happened during this Card Act is they restricted a lot of things. A lot of fees that banks were charging for this, that, and the other. Because many people use debit and credit cards, it added up to billions and billions of dollars. Well, because of this bill, they have basically cut those fees, in some cases, 70, 80%. So the banks are no longer getting the revenue off of you. What they've done is found workarounds, which means all these other things that used to never happen, you didn't have to worry about. Now you have to, because they're trying to recoup the losses that this bill has now put on their earnings statement. So let's continue. So we now have Chase, as of said on February 8th, that they're going to be offering new types of checking accounts that they're going to charge a $12 monthly fee on. Bank of America at the end of the year is going to be restructuring its checking account and implementing new fees ranging from $8.95 to $25. Now, when you run the numbers, if you are in these accounts, you're going to be paying anywhere between $100 and $300 extra just in fees to keep an account. Now, I told you in my last video, you do not need an account from the bank. Now, in certain cases, if you have a job and maybe they only do direct deposit, okay, but please don't keep your money in there. No. Because I'm telling you, it's about the hammer and the anvil is about to come down. Basically, this is the death of free checking. That day has come. And he's right. So here, if you're with Bank of America, they're going to charge $8.95 for a monthly maintenance fee. But you can get around that if you have at least one direct payment each month or maintain a balance of $1,500. If you don't like the idea of paying a fee, then you can enroll in this so-called quote-unquote enhanced checking and keep a balance of $5,000. See, the point of all of this is to get more and more of your money. This new enhanced checking account, if your balance drops below $5,000, you'll charge a $15 fee. See, and the thing is, it doesn't cost them really anything to hold this. It's just when they take your money, it's inputted into a computer. They're not really holding this money. It's laughable how they can just do these things and charge you for it and say they're doing you a service. No. The same thing they're doing, you can do for yourself. And I would submit that you probably need to start doing that. Citibank is going to start in September. Oh, actually, they've already started in September, and they are going to be charging $30 for maintenance fees. Maintain your. It's ridiculous. What do they need to maintain? It's an electronic entry. They don't need to maintain that. You're being robbed. You're being robbed. Wachovia will be charging. HSBC is charging. Yeah. You just keep on. And you wonder why you can't get wealthy. It's been drained from you through fees and taxes. Next article. Headline. My credit card had a 79.9% APR. Now, let's just get real. It's 80%. 80% for a credit card. This is what is going on now. This is what is going on. And once you read the article, you find out that an elderly lady from Texas who had bad credit, she applied for a card from this company, First Premium Bank. What they know is that people who have subprime credit, subprime borrowers, they are as a whole, not individually, but as a whole, less likely to pay off their bills. So what they're doing is they're charging you higher interest rates to compensate for all the other people that may not be paying. And again, this comes in because of the Card Act. These are ways they can get around it. Now, most of us think of the high price of credit card, the APR interest rate, as being like 29.9, like 30%. But because the new law says that they can't just jack up your rate any kind of a way, what they're doing is they're just going to start you off at the high rate in the beginning. And so when I read this, I said, this is why people subjugate themselves, for lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, and they wonder why they can't get ahead. If you are in such a state that you need a credit card, and to the point where you agree to an interest rate of 80%, you need to be enslaved. You need to be enslaved because you don't know any better. You need to, whatever happens to you, that is your own fault. That is ridiculous. And the lady in this article states that she found that 80%, 79.9% was ludicrous. She said, ludicrous. Now, and the typical new customer, the limit is only $300. $300. What are you doing that you can't come up with $300? If that is the problem, you do not need a credit card. And so when she complained about it, they dropped her rate to 59, from 79.9 to 59.9. So 80%, that's ludicrous. That is highway robbery. But 60%, oh, that's much better. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And we have a consumer mentality that has gone out of control. You are out of control. Ma'am, in this article, you are out of control. And let me go further with this ridiculousness. Since they've started this program, First Premier Bank, they said nearly 700,000 people have signed up for the 59.9% card. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand? I mean, we are willingly giving ourselves to the slaughter. Lemmings. How in the world does this seem like a good idea? How? And in this case, I can't really fault the bank, although I'm not a big fan of banks, as you know. I can't really fault the bank. They're doing something, providing quote unquote a service, and it's legal. We, the consumer, are the problem. We have a problem. Let's go further into this article. First Premier charges a total of $135 per year in fees. It starts with a $45 processing fee to open the account. So just to get this card, they charge you $45 off the bat. Then there's an annual fee of $30 for the first year. Then there's a $45 fee every subsequent year. Plus there's a monthly servicing fee of $6.25 a year. If you want a cash advance, it will cost you $5 or 3%, whichever is greater. Late payments ring up at $35. The bank will also charge you $35 if a payment on your account is returned due to insufficient funds for any reason. Now, I'm good at calculating. Now, this says that they charge $135 per year in fees. So let me run some numbers. $135, and we're going to divide that by the amount of the card. The limit of the card is $300. Divided by 300. That is 45% in fees already. Now, let's take this 135. Let's say it says if you wanted a cash advance, that's $5. Okay, so plus $5. It says or 3%, but let's go with $5. Let's say you took out a cash advance and you were late on making a payment. Late payments are $35. And then let's say when you made the payment, it came back insufficient funds, which is another $35. Add that up, you at $210. That's $210 in fees divided by 300, which is the limit of the card. That's 70%. So in a year's time or less, if all of these things occur, which is possible since you're already subprime, since you already have a mindset, the lunacy to pick up a card like this, you could already be in the hole 70% of the card. Fees. And it says, and even though all of this is happening, it says, yet the customers keep coming. The company said it serves nearly 3 million customers nationwide and receives anywhere from 200,000 to 300,000 applications a month. My God. I don't see how charging me exorbitant interest rates, exorbitant fees constitutes a good situation, a good deal. You have people going to these payday loans, and let me help you understand something. If you do not have the money, you don't need to get it. Period. If you got to put it on a card because you don't have the cash, you probably shouldn't be putting it on the card. I'm just saying. Because what's going to happen is you're going to find out. I mean, because if you can't already make the payment without the interest for whatever you're trying to pay for, how then are you going to pay for it with this absorbent 80%, 60%, and they got 300 up to 300,000 folk a month who are begging for this card? Oh, it's going down. It is going down. It is going down. Third and final article. Debit cards. $50, I'm sorry, spending limit coming. What is happening is because of the Card Act, and I stated this before, there's a thing called interchange fees, and I'll explain what they are. But the Act is restricting those interchange fees, which used to average around 44 cents to just, I believe, 12 cents now. And so when I run the numbers on that, 12, okay, so that's a 73% decline in revenue. And those fees added up, or at least used to add up to around $16 billion per year. See, when you use these cards, somebody's getting paid. Now let me get you hip on what interchange fees are. When you are a retailer or a merchant and you use credit cards, you get charged for that. Visa and whoever the bank is, or MasterCard and whoever the bank card is, you'll see it at the top. You know, all banks, especially the major ones, Bank of America, Chase, all of them have these cards, debit cards, which act both as a debit card and a credit card. Well, when you use these, the retail store, so let's say you went to JCPenney, for instance, when you use the card, they charge JCPenney, at least used to, around 44 cents every time that card gets swiped. Well, what the Card Act has now done is said now you cannot, and what the, before I get to that, and that 44 cent was split between the credit card company, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, whoever, and the actual people who produce the card, the banks. So you will have, I'm guessing, I don't know the arrangement, but if it was 50-50 and you're talking 44 cents, 22 cents went to, let's say, Bank of America or Chase, 22 cents went to Visa. That's how it used to be. Well, now they've cut that down by 73%. And so now they're talking about only about 12 cents. That's a 73% decline in revenue in that particular area. So this is why you're having all of these other ways that banks are trying to get around that, because they're losing revenue. So those are what interchange fees are. Now what they're going to do, and this is a money-making thing, instead of having you, when you use your debit card, you know, there's a certain amount that you can spend when you use your debit card, because normally it has to be in your account. Well, what they're doing is they are lowering the bar. They are lowering the bar, and so you have a situation. What happens, they're lowering it to possibly $50, which means that if you have something greater than $50, you'll have to pay for it. You'll have to swipe the card twice for it, right? So instead of getting that, it's a way to force you to swipe the card more often, so that they get more fees. Now, again, when you're talking debit cards, it's your money, supposedly. But they find ways of pulling money from you. Now, when you're talking interchange fees, that doesn't apply to you, but it is going toward the retailer, the JCPenney in this case. Well, that has an effect on you, because what they do is they charge higher prices to compensate for those fees. They charge higher fees to compensate. So that garment that you bought probably would be a lot cheaper if they didn't have all these other things. So the money doesn't just escape. Somebody's paying for it. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And it's so sad that it's come to this. And again, The road to hell is paved with good intentions. The Card Act was meant to be for the positive for the consumer. But you as a consumer have no rights when it comes to your bank account. You have no rights when it comes to your credit card. You have no rights when it comes to your debit card. Why? Because you didn't create the system. Do you understand that? He who creates the system creates the rules. And I can extrapolate this far beyond just talking about credit cards. People are complaining about the Wisconsin thing, where people collective bargaining rights and pensions and how it's in the state's constitution that they have to have pensions for these people. They have to have certain amount. Well, if you as a worker, as an employee, did not write the thing into legislation, then that thing can be taken away from you. It goes same for Social Security. Who controls it? 401ks, who controls it? It's not you. You didn't write the rules for it. The government wrote the rules for it, which means that at the behest of the government, they can change the rules on a moment's notice, and they don't have to inform you, and it doesn't have to be for your benefit. When you understand how this stuff works, you will begin to see how you are being taken. You've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked. And we have, at least based on the last article, 300,000 folk, at least 3 million actually, who are just lost. They got to have a credit card. They got to have a cell phone. They got to have an iPad. That is a trick of the enemy. And the enemy in this case is your government. The enemy in this case is your bank. The enemy in this case is anybody who is trying to help you, quote unquote, part with your money. That is your wealth. That is your lifeline to freedom. But we don't want freedom. We want subjugation. We want, and it's so sad that the only people who are experiencing freedom in this day and age are Muslims over in Northern Africa and the Middle East, and the Icelandic people. They are the only people who realize and see what's going on and have said to the banker establishment, no more. They have stood up for righteousness. They have stood up for humanity. My God. And we got all of these people who profess and proclaim to be lovers of freedom and democratic, and yet we got more slaves here in America than they had during the Atlantic slave trade. So sad. So sad. I could go on, but it's time to wake up, people. I don't know who's gonna watch my channel in the future. I don't know who's gonna watch these other preppers channels in the future. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. But we can see the trend, and it is not looking good for America. It is not looking good for America. So you need to get, again, back to my earlier videos. You need to prepare. Whatever that means for you, get yourself together. Stop thinking that the banks are helping you. They are not. They're not here to help you. They are here to help their shareholders. And most of their shareholders most of the shareholders don't bank with them. They have their money tied up in some other way. It's not sitting in some account. Remember, the invisible is more important than the visible. Think about it.